Boys are the antidote to Proud Boys. Boogaloo Boys are anti-imperialism, anti-cop, anti.
They're the antidote to the Proud Boys? Did you just say the Boogaloo Boys are the antidote to the Proud Boys? Let's see. Oh, what popped up as the first Google search here? The Boogaloo movement, whose adherents often referred to as Boogaloo Boys or Boogaloo Boys, is a loosely organized far-right anti-government extremist movement in the United States. It has also been described as a militia. Adherents say they are preparing for or seek to incite a Second American Civil War or Second American Revolution, which they call the Boogaloo. The movement consists of pro-gun, anti-government groups. The specific ideology of each group varies, and the views of topics and race can differ wildly. Some are white supremacists or neo-Nazis who believe the impending unrest will be a race war.
Sure, well, this Destiny character, who I guess, he's kind of the kingmaker of Breadtube, if not part of Breadtube instead.
Destiny dedicates his life to slagging on Breadtube. And whatever you want to define Breadtube as. Like, are you kidding me? He hates all these people. He spends more time angry at the left than he does on the right now. It's one of the biggest criticisms everyone has about him.
The narrative that they have is so shallow. It's basically there's this group of bad people called fascists, and they're under every rock, and they're hiding behind every door.
Oh, sorry. Oh, that one got me. Yeah, fascists are pretty bad. They're not great. Hey. Yesterday, we thought we were getting this and we didn't. We were denied. We never got it. We never got the Jimmy Dore, Caleb Maupin experience where they taught us about how YouTube is being funded by the CIA. Well, sorry, not YouTube. YouTubers. Breadtubers. The very same. Yes. Oh yes, this is more Jimmy Dore and Caleb Maupin, but this one's gonna be good. It's the exact ones you want. This is the combination that we've always. Come on, we deserve this. We deserve nice things. Why is Lindsay Ellis? Well, I'm sure we'll find out. I mean, I don't want to steel man their arguments when it comes to this. By the way, if you want some homework, I'm going to show you something. Behold, everyone, I'm about to reveal a huge secret to you. This is what Breadtube is. Yes, you're through the looking glass. Welcome to Breadtube. Breadtube, a response to the algorithms pushing of far-right indoctrination on the YouTubes, aka it was a Reddit thread that was started to be able to just highlight and showcase the fact that YouTube doesn't only have the baddies. It's not all Sargon of Akkad's and Steven Crowder's and Destiny's. There's also other content creators that you can take a look at. Breadtube is a place for the new wave of creators, journalists, and artists making high-quality content that goes against the prevailing winds of the internet. Politics, history, economics, science, media analysis, free speech, film criticism, philosophy, anarchism, communism. Anything that is thoughtful, well-researched, and difficult to find in the mainstream is welcomed here. That was their motto. That this is Breadtube. You're seeing it before your very eyes right now. This is all it is. And back in the day, there wasn't a lot of streamers that were considered Breadtube or Breadtube adjacent. It was mostly long-form video essayists. And some of the huge ones that obviously blew up: Sean, Three Arrows, H Bomber Guy, ContraPoints, Philosophy Tube. Those were some of the bigger Breadtubies. And now there's many Breadtubes. There's multiple Breadtubes. Breadtube actually now is kind of becoming an all-encompassing term for just leftist content. Sometimes people post SoundCloud podcasts and other stuff. I mean, what is Breadtube to you? Is one person's bread and another person's yeast? It's hard to know. Anyways, my point of all this is that the idea that there is a massive conspiracy, which is largely the machinations of the anti-Semite known as Caleb Maupin, is ludicrous. I mean, I can say this as someone who's considered a part of Breadtube. I'm in the Breadtubes. I've been featured on the Breadtubes. I've topped the charts of the Breadtubes a number of times, actually. I've never received that phone call, you know? I've never gotten the knock on the door. Oh, this was an awkward time. We better go back. Let's learn.
I'm here with Caleb Maupin. He's a widely acclaimed speaker, writer, journalist, and political analyst. He has traveled extensively in the Middle East and Latin America. He was involved.
By the way, this is 100% Caleb Maupin's bio. They're like, what would you like me to say before you come on, Caleb Maupin? All right. Tell them that I've traveled extensively in the Middle East. That I am a activist who has stood up for the rights of black and trans people throughout my entire life. Also that I am basically the white MLK Jr. Okay.
Involved with the Occupy Wall Street movement from its
Best-selling
early
author.
planning stages and has been involved in many struggles for social justice. He is an outspoken advocate of international friendship and cooperation, as well as a 21st century socialism. Please welcome Caleb Maupin.
My exaggerated bit wasn't that far off. And he's also Jesus.
Thanks for being here, Caleb.
Sure.
Now I want to talk about your book.
All
Here is your
right.
book, Breadtube Serfs Imperialism.
Breadtube. Oh, hey, come on. I can be small. I can be small. I mispronounce words all the time. I'm probably mispronouncing words in the midst of the sentence. It's fine. It's okay. It's all right to laugh. It's okay to laugh a little bit. Broad-term.
Explain. Now, I don't know most of the people in this book. I thought I was going to know everybody. I don't know any of them. So tell people what Breadtube.
Not even for like a small, teeny little, 80-page novella was Jimmy Dore going to be bothered to take a look into it. I have no idea who any of these people are, who you are, who am I, what are we doing here, what's going on?
Breadtube is, and then tell people
Yeah, no,
how
he knows who Sean is. He hasn't read the book.
serve imperialism.
Well, I got kind of sucked in. I was asked to debate somebody, and so somebody wanted to debate me about socialism. So I debated this character, Destiny Stephen Bennell, and we had quite an interesting debate about socialism.
Yes, Destiny, renowned leftist, lover of all things leftist, lover of socialism, of communism, definitely the front page of Breadtube on a regular basis. This theory is already starting off to a wonderfully splendid origin story.
It was very odd. And so then from there, I was sucked into this internet subculture, this internet universe that presents itself as left-wing, that presents itself as socialist or Marxist or anarchist, but is really just a way to rile up young people who associate with progressive causes, anti-racism.
I should have researched this Stephen Bonnell II, but if I had, I probably would have realized that he's in fact a proud neoliberal and a proud capitalist. Yeah.
Workers' rights and get them supporting the U.S. political establishment against the right wing. And so the more I kind of observed this internet subculture, and these people are getting hundreds of thousands, millions of views. They're being promoted by the New Yorker magazine, and they're speaking in the name of Marxism and socialism and leftism. But the essence of what they say is that the United States and U.S. imperialism, they are the good guys against, these authoritarian regimes around the world. They're spreading freedom. They say that socialism is just...
So basically, the machinations of his entire conspiracy theory here, he has put into words what some people feel if they're a content creator on the internet and they've had some beefs with people. He's turned that into an entire story where he's censored in the middle of it, obviously. So again, you know how sometimes people start beefs with me or vice versa. If I was to then take all of that and then look at them and be like, it's unusual. It seems like people who identify as Marxist-Leninists, as well as people who identify as the alt-right, as well as people who identify as liberals and neoliberals, all of them, and conservatives and Republicans, all of them seem to really hate me. They all really hate me. What do they all have in common? They've all eaten at Papa John's. That's right. Every one of them at some point in their lives has eaten at Papa John's. And Papa John did say at a certain point that the reckoning is coming or something is coming. I remember that. Was he talking about me? And if true, is he receiving money? Perhaps, I don't know, from government agencies in order to silence me and Papa John. Interesting. That's I'm I know that sounds ridiculous. That's pretty close to what Breadtube serves imperialism and this entire idea that Caleb has painted for himself, because to him, he's looking at this through the lens of, I had a debate with Destiny. I was, I guess, just too occupied with being, MLK Jr. To notice that Destiny was in fact not a leftist, that Destiny is in fact a proud neoliberal capitalist, and for some reason that just spiraled me into this world of people suddenly noticing who I was and talking about me and making fun of me. All of a sudden, I was debating this guy called Vosh, and then I debated Vosh, and then after that, it seemed like someone else made a video, and then something got leaked about how, Bad Empanada what played a pretty big role in this. I think Bad Empanada played a bigger role in this than Destiny did, because Bad Empanada was the first person to really find a handful of some of the super yikesy Caleb stuff, including the speech with Alexander Dugin, and put that out on the Twitters. And once I saw that, when I was like, wait, what the fuck? Oh shit, a little bit more sleuthing. That's when I found the Caleb Maupin / the head of the Communist Party of Britain, who happens to be a massive, massive transphobe TERF, and their little conversation together where she was talking about trans ideology. So I put that video and published that video on the Twitters. And then when that video went viral on Twitter, all of a sudden, I believe that is what inspired and/or provoked Thought Slime to do a video on Caleb Maupin. Thought Slime does a video on Caleb Maupin, and all of a sudden, Caleb Maupin is doing a clapback, a battle, if you will. And that's where Burger King comes from, and his whole Burger King theory, and how Thought Slime actually enjoys slime, but as a true communist Marxist-Leninist, he rejects slime. You can see how these all, like, there was a series of events. You can see the timeline of how everything kind of started lining up, but there was no conspiracy. There was no direct association between myself and Thought Slime and Destiny, blah, blah, blah. I mean, a lot of the people who I've just listed, they actively all hate each other. There's not a cooperation between these individuals. Vosh hates Thought Slime. Destiny hates Vosh. Destiny hates Thought Slime. Like...
It's an employee stock ownership program. They don't question the rule of profits. They just want to kind of experiment with worker cooperatives, basically. It's pretty clear that they are getting propped up by...
Every one of us wants to experiment with worker cooperatives, and that's the be-all, end-all. Oh, you started a worker co-op. One? Nice, we did a socialism. Well, it's over now. We're done.
One wing of the establishment. Now, in the book, I go into the evidence of that. But then we have further evidence of that thanks to the work of Max Blumenthal and the Gray Zone. We now know that one of these voices, Abigail Thorne, was directly being subsidized by the British government by foundations tied to USA.
Nope. No, she wasn't. The closest they have, if in fact they do have anything, is that Abigail Thorne had received money for the creation of a video from a think tank that had received money from a government fund that wanted to promote actively the idea of making people less vaccine hesitant. That's the closest they have. That's it. And if that somehow plays into your larger idea that all these YouTubers and breadtubers are getting money, like, did you see that interview with Jimmy Dore? And by the way, look how serious he's taking this. Like, wow, I can't believe this. How has no one ever discovered this before? He brought on Max Blumenthal on his show, and wow, they were talking about Sean and how Sean, the production value and quality of his videos is evidence of that he must be getting outside funding from another source. Sean. No hate on Sean. I mean, I love Sean. Both his research, his videos, his commentary, his voice, everything. Sean is an absolutely amazing hot dog. I'm just saying, Sean uses a single JPEG for most of his videos. It's like they're more of a podcast than they are like a strikingly visual experience.
ID and to the British royal family and such. So, what I said in the book based on estimates, right? Based on some of the people in the background advising them that I heard about and other things, has now been pretty well confirmed. These folks are basically some kind of psyop to get young people that have socialistic or anti-imperialist instincts and get them to serve the empire.
So you're saying there's evidence to back this up, that there are YouTubers in the political lefty space. And
you're saying there's evidence, you just haven't presented it. Neither did Max Blumenthal. That article was utterly absurd and ridiculous. We've already done a pretty comprehensive debunk of it, but yeah.
And a lot of them, you're saying a lot, not just, but a lot of them, and they're called Breadtube. And you're saying that those people are somehow being co-opted by the intelligence communities to push an agenda?
Sure. I mean, I received quite a bit of
Hmm.
information about who was
Hmm.
advising them. There's an individual
Order
who's tied to military psychiatrists who appeared on CNN
Oh
calling for
my.
mass deprogramming of the country
My.
after January 6th.
Hmm.
And there are other.
So, yeah, I would recommend watching Sophie from Mars' new video. She did an excellent job of also debunking this very strange correlation that Caleb Maupin has been trying to do. I mean, it helps your conspiracy theory if you add things like, well, there's a person who's loosely tied and connected to them. I know that because they've actually tweeted at each other at one point, and this person actually has other ties into very nefarious government agencies and schemes. So, yes, some might call this a loose connection that proves absolutely nothing, but I call it fact.
Other things that point to some kind of covert support, the mainstream media highlighting some of these people and celebrating them. And then their foreign policy stances could come directly from CNN. And then we have that great report that was done by the Gray Zone, and that all points to this. But the thing is, there's a precedent for this, right? We often talk about the Congress for Cultural Freedom program, which was in the 1950s. The CIA realized that basically, if they wanted to hurt the left and hurt Marxists, one way to do it was to start funding certain voices. And you had the CIA set up Partisan Review magazine. You had the CIA basically launch a whole program to subsidize left-wing voices.
By the way, it is a very important part of any conspiracy or conspiracy theorists to also combine things that are factually true with things that are utterly absurd. After all, you will have no leg to stand on if you create a foundation of utter nonsense. You can't start. Your foundation can't be utter nonsense. You can't come at this and be like, well, Breadtube is actually literally bread people who rise, and it's each and every one of them will start this bread army. Like right away, the person will be like, but if you start talking about true things that have happened, McCarthyism, for example, all of a sudden someone's going to be like, oh, I know about that one. That one's real. And then you can be like, yes, and did you know that Operation Paperclip also happened? It did. One of the head of NASA apparently, or the head of NASA apparently, he was a Nazi. So yeah, that also happened. That was also true. It's like, okay, well now I've softened you up a little bit. I've massaged you. Now that you're nice and massaged and ready for pure idea penetration, I'm about to bring on to you the truth about Breadtube. You know that it has to go that way.
That were anti-communist, that were against the Soviet Union, that were against China. And there's a long history of covert manipulation of left-wing voices, kind of presenting left-wing voices that are, in a way, acceptable to the establishment. And it was actually Irving Kristol, who was the director of the Congress for Cultural Freedom program for the CIA. He eventually became considered the ideological father of neoconservatism. But a lot of big names that one associates with the left, like Mary McCarthy, Hannah Arendt, Susan Sontag, they got their start with this CIA-funded publication. So there's a precedent for this kind of behavior. And during the Cold War, this was done, yes.
So this isn't new. In fact, so this isn't new that the CIA, the intelligence communities, that they co-opt media and they fund media directly a lot of times, and to push an agenda, imperialistic, hegemonic agenda. This is not new. This isn't a crazy conspiracy theory. This has been documented. Well, the church committee.
See, like they're doing in real time exactly what I was talking about, because you have to. If they came at this and they were just like, hey, by the way, again, this whole thing really started with this magical loaf of bread that rose and the bread people came forth and like they are now trying to take over society, like you get laughed out of the room. You have to give your conspiracy theories a strong foundation based in reality and usually involving other things that were also considered to be perhaps dubious or conspiracy theories at the time. And you grow from there because then you have a solid foundation of people to be like, yes, I know about this. I know it's true. And because that one is true, then what you're talking about now, you must just be at the cusp of knowledge, right? You're just in the know. You're a couple of steps ahead of everyone else. Like, just look how clever he looks. And red.
That was in the 70s. And can you talk about that?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it became revealed in the 1970s with the Church Committee. That was during the presidency of Jimmy Carter. You had a congressional committee that investigated the FBI and CIA, and they revealed a number of things, including Project Mockingbird, which was,
Mm.
the CIA's wing that was handling the media, as well as Project MK Ultra, which was about promoting hallucinogens and drugs on college campuses and into left wing and radical spaces, and that there was all kinds of foul play. And again, this is documented.
Just
There's this
documented.
whole yeah, I mean, these are facts. These are historical
Right.
facts. There are mainstream media articles about it. There are whole academic books.
I mean, they're really screaming the quiet part loud right now. It's definitely like, I am correct about this one thing, or I may know a thing or two, and so because of that, you have to believe everything else I propose right now.
That have been published about this kind of thing, and it's so sad that they've
And that's not really what MK Ultra was about, by the way. But it's, again, he's blending a whole bunch of different things together.
cultivated this
It
atmosphere
didn't work out. Let's just say that, you know.
where if anyone says anything like this, they just go, "Oh, that's a conspiracy theory. That's a conspiracy." No, these are things that are acknowledged from the history. And
See, he actually just said it out loud. Like, he has to like scream this to you. By the way, people know about this. MK Ultra was real. That's why people like Caleb Maupin will always, again, take things that happen to be based in reality. Project MK Ultra was the code name of an illegal human experimentation program designed and undertaken by the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA. CIA fucking sucks, everybody. The experiments were designed are intended to develop procedures to identify drugs such as LSD that could be used in interrogations to weaken individuals and force confessions through brainwashing and psychological torture. MK Ultra used numerous methods to manipulate a subject's mental state and brain functions, such as covert administration of high doses of psychedelic drugs, especially LSD, other chemicals, electroshocks, hypnotists, like torture, sensory deprivation, isolation, verbal and sexual abuse, in addition to other forms of torture. MK Ultra was preceded by two drug-related experiments, Project Bluebird and Project Artichoke, sorry. It began in 1953, was reduced in scope by 1964. In 1967, it was halted in 1973. It was organized through the CIA's Office of Scientific Intelligence. It was coordinated with the U.S. Army's biological warfare laboratories. The program engaged in illegal activities, including the use of U.S. and Canadian citizens as unwilling test subjects. MK Ultra scope was broad. The activities carried out under the guise of research for more than 80 institutions, including colleges, universities, hospitals, prisons, pharmaceutical companies. The CIA operated using front organizations, although some top officials of these institutions were aware of the CIA's involvement. MK Ultra was first brought to the public attention in 1975 by the Church Committee of the United States Congress and Gerald Ford's United States Presidential Commission of CIA Activities, also known as the Rockefeller Commission. One of the better things that Ford did. Investigative efforts were hampered by CIA directors Richard Helms' order that MK Ultra files be destroyed in 1973. The Church Committee and Rockefeller's Commission investigation relied on sworn testimony of direct participants and of a small number of documents that survived the Helms order. In a 1977 Freedom of Information Act recovered 20,000 documents related to MK Ultra. Anyways, MK Ultra, it's a true story. It happened. It's horrifying. The CIA does a lot of incredibly fucked up stuff. Fuck the CIA. You know, I guess I should put that out there as some kind of a qualifier, so that when the Maupinites come into the chat, they're like, "Oh, I knew you were a CIA stooge. I've seen what happens. Look at that. You're literally sponsored by the CIA and CSIS and the United States Space Force. I can see it on the camera."
based on these historical precedents of manipulating activists, manipulating left-wing voices, based on some of the people associated with Breadtube, and now based on that smoking gun we got from Gray Zone, it's pretty clear what Breadtube is. It's an
Again, there was absolutely no smoking gun, like, whatsoever. They, at their very best, and the Gray Zone article reads exactly the same way that, like, all of these kind of, like, let's wrap all the conspiracy theories into one giant package read. It's a whole bunch of information, a massive information dump, combined with a whole bunch of things that may or may not be true, combined with outright lies and fabrication and speculation. Yeah, at best, what it would prove, if that document is real, we still don't even know if the document is real, but even at best, it is that there was money from the government of Britain that went to a think tank, that then went to a marketing and research center, that then reached out to influencers to spread vaccine awareness. And that isn't even a conspiracy, to be totally honest with you. People were saying online that was happening to them in America. Like, it was published. It was like the U.S. government reaching out to TikTokers and influencers in order to spread awareness of vaccines and the use of vaccines. Like, that's not a conspiracy. That doesn't mean that the government is directly engaging with these select individuals, in this case Abigail Thorne, and getting Abigail Thorne. Like, even Abigail Thorne came out and made a tweet about it. Maybe I'll find that.
attempt to control the narrative and make sure that people who are interested in socialism and workers' rights and opposing the police state,
Blake
that
Feely,
they,
thank you.
follow a certain foreign policy agenda. And there's nothing particularly scandalous about this. We should almost expect this kind of behavior at the end of the day, right? I mean, this is how they work. They try to craft discourse in their own way. What's interesting is that the primary activities of the Breadtube crowd seem to be about getting left-wing voices to kind of, participate in this partisan red state versus blue state fight. And you, Jimmy, have been targeted ridiculously because
Oh, Jimmy's gonna love this. But before Jimmy soys himself, a new video, Vaccines and Freedom. Really proud of this one. It's the result of a long project to interview unvaccinated people and find out what they really think, done with the help from RI Science. That's the Royal Institute, right? Yes, there it is, the Royal Institution. Thank you to all the members of the public who took part in the study, and to the amazing voice actors and artists who brought their words to life. During the research phase, some folks mixed up the Royal Institution with the royal family, and claimed that I was paid to make a video as a secret MI5 psyop. In reality, the Royal Institution are a charity, and I wasn't paid at all. The project details are openly disclosed in the video. It was a little hurtful being harassed for weeks over that conspiracy theory. If you did spread it, perhaps you consider a small donation to UNICEF's Vaccinate fundraiser as a way of an apology. No hard feelings.
Oh my goodness, you interviewed somebody from the Boogaloo Boys. Oh my gosh, right? This cancel culture. Never talk to any Trump supporter, never talk to anyone on the right. This is a big part of this because they don't want an actual movement of the people from below, where you have people with different perspectives and different ideologies, different religious backgrounds. They don't want that. What they want is an army of foot soldiers to do the work of Joe Biden and protect Joe Biden from the Republicans. And if you can just, cancel anyone who's deemed quote unquote right wing, you can isolate people and make them loyal foot soldiers of one section of the ruling class.
Cancel. Oh no. Oh no, are they going to come for me? Because again, all my views kind of line up with conservatives, except for economically. That would be the biggest difference between us.
So they did come out. So that's the biggest thing that they seem to want to shut down, is if meeting the establishment and the intelligence community, if somebody from the left and the right figure out that they have common enemies that they can work together against, that's what they have to demonize, like they did to me when I interviewed that Boogaloo boy, which, by the way, people still don't realize it. Boogaloo boy, 100% different than Proud Boys. Boogaloo boy.
He loves that. Yeah, they're different organizations, Jimmy. What you did there is you never did any research into the Boogaloo Boys, and then you just hosted one, and you thought that it was a good thing to do because at the end of the day, they want similar things to you. But if you had done a little bit of research into them, you'd realize that there are elements of the Boogaloo Boys that are absolutely a hate group, and that they believe that there's an impending race war that's about to come in, and they have to usher in, and they're going to do so violently. Yeah, so, I mean, that was more the super yikesy thing. You did get called out for it, though. I'm going to pull that video up.
Are the antidote to Proud Boys. Boogaloo Boys are anti-imperialism, anti-cop,
They're the antidote to the Proud Boys? Did you just say the Boogaloo Boys are the antidote to the Proud Boys?
Trump, anti-racist, and pro-LGBTQ, and pro-Black Lives Matter. That's what Boogaloo Boys are. But the Breadtube people wanted to manipulate that and distort that into Boogaloo Boys are right-wing racists, just like Trump and Proud Boys and Nazis. That's what they wanted people to think, and it's the exact opposite. And that's why I trended on Twitter for 3 days straight one time, was because they have all their bots and everything coming out to try to create a false narrative that Jimmy Dore's working with Nazis, instead of Jimmy Dore is reaching out to working class.
I found it. He tried to delete this, by the way, but luckily Rod.
Okay, ready? Yeah.
Rod Weber recorded his own version of it, unbeknownst to Jimmy.
So the foundation is, hating gays, Black Lives Matter, and they're not racist. So, but then you said that on Twitter he supports Kyle Rittenhouse, and so that.
For me, that's a deal breaker. And
Okay.
a lot of these left libertarians are for gay pride, LGBTQ issues, but on the other hand, then they're for Kyle Rittenhouse, and that's the mind blower.
You say it's a deal. So when you say it's a deal breaker, what does that mean?
Well, that's personally for me, and I think a lot of other lefties out
What
on.
deal is that break? what deal does that break? A deal that you'll talk to them,
No,
or the deal that
I'll tell.
you'll work with them on common interests? Does that break that deal?
No, no, no. On me platforming them. I mean, that's it's something where I will push back hard. If I'm going to put something like that in a documentary, I'm going to make sure that there's strong pushback against that. And so
Okay. So I should have that. I should probably have that guy back on, and you would say I should challenge him on his Kyle Rittenhouse
Oh,
affiliation.
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, will do. Okay, will do. So that's good. How would I even know to Google that? How would I even know to Google Boogaloo Boy? You know what I mean? Like, I would, like, you know, again, if I went.
By the way, if you're not catching on, this is Jimmy Dore admitting in 4K that he didn't know anything about the Boogaloo Boys before he brought on a Boogaloo Boy to talk to them, and now he's saying, like, how would I know to Google that? Like, how would I know to have done that beforehand? Like, would you have known to do that? You fucking hosted him. You should have been like, well, who am I hosting? What are they about? Let's look it up. Let's see. Oh, what popped up as the first Google search here? The Boogaloo movement, whose adherents often referred to as Boogaloo Boys or Boogaloo Boys, is a loosely organized far-right anti-government extremist movement in the United States. It has also been described as a militia. Adherents say they are preparing for or seek to incite a Second American Civil War or Second American Revolution, which they call the Boogaloo. The movement consists of pro-gun, anti-government groups. The specific ideology of each group varies, and the views of topics and race can differ wildly. Some are white supremacists or neo-Nazis who believe the impending unrest will be a race war. There are also other groups that condemn racism and white supremacy. Now, I know you're going to be like, oh, that's just Wikipedia. This is one of many, many sources that will pop up on Google the second you pop that in there. Although attempts by some individual elements of the movement to support anti-racist groups and movements such as Black Lives Matter have been met with wariness and skepticism, and researchers and journalists are unsure if they are genuine or meant to obscure the movement's actual objectives. The movement primarily organizes online, but adherents have appeared in person events. So yeah, I don't know. You should have done a little bit of research into this. Just 2 seconds.
Went to look up Boogaloo Boys and I went to ADL, it would say the opposite. And so I've since seen that. People say, oh no, on Twitter, he's talking about Kyle. Well, how would I fucking know?
John Swift, Wikipedia. John, you gotta debunk the sources, the links, okay? You can't always just be like, Wikipedia. Actually, ad hom. The false ad hom gets you another timeout. Bad John. You must learn. Learn from your mistakes.
Before, and then you of course knew to put it in because you're a specialist on this stuff. But anyway, so all right, so that's a good. So
yeah, well, I'd say that you just kind of need to be in some more anti-fascist circles. I'd say follow Daryl Lamont Jenkins, follow Anti-Fash Gordon, follow Rose City Antifa or Antifa, as some prefer to say. You just kind of need to have a point and counterpoint.
See, Rod Webber, he's been an activist for a very long time, and he's been like he does a lot of blends. He works with Vermin Supreme. He'll do a lot of in the street stuff. They'll do sketches. They'll do routines and stuff like that. And he was the first person to legitimately call Jimmy Dore out on all this shit. And Jimmy Dore ended up not uploading this video for a long time. Not until like Rod Webber eventually started leaking parts of it, and like they started going viral on Twitter and all that kind of stuff. And then Jimmy was finally like, oh well, I don't want to seem like the person who's trying to run from this. So then he ended up uploading this. But yeah, Rod was smart enough to record it on his own too.
He's saying what he's saying. You need to hear the counterpoint from folks.
Okay, that would be cool. So when you say deal breaker, you don't mean deal breaker like I wouldn't work with someone like that on an anti-war, or I wouldn't work with someone like that on pro-LGBT.
Yes. What? You can't align with potential neo-Nazis or potential neo-Nazi groups in order to further the goals and aims of being pro-LGBTQ+. It doesn't make sense. There's no such thing as the Boogaloo Boys are the antidote to the Proud Boys. That's the sentence that makes no sense. They're both far-right militias. So unless you're just hoping that you're going to get the far-right militias to all attack and Roblox each other, if that's it, if this is an Azov battalion versus one of the neo-Nazi Russian battalion things where it's just like they cancel each other out in theory, is that what you're hoping will happen here?
Or I wouldn't. Is that what you mean when you say deal? You just mean deal breaker like you wouldn't you would push back on that person when you interviewed them. That's what you mean?
Me personally, I'm a documentarian, so the deal that I'm making with any of these folks is we're sharing screen time, and so there would be strong pushback, and I would make sure that these things were made aware to the public if I was giving them screen time. As far as
So I'm glad that Jimmy's learned absolutely nothing about this. He's done still, I guess, zero research on the Boogaloo Boys, the Boogaloo Boy movement, and just probably thinks what like most conservatives think about that it's just all a meme. It's a meme, okay? They're memeing. Have you not seen their logo? It's a Boogaloo, electric Boogaloo. There's like, you know, there's an igloo in there and all that kind of. They're silly. They wear Hawaiian shirts. It's all memes. They're Hawaiian shirts, lots and lots of ammunition and guns. But again, you know, it's all a meme.
Libertarians who share a lot of the same goals of people on the progressive left, and we share a common enemy. And so they had to try to distort it. It's not. It works on some people. It certainly isn't helpful, but it's to a point where when people attack me that way, it actually does help me now, because now they see the people who are doing those attacks, and we've explained to them who they are, except I didn't know who these people are. Who are the people who are on BreadTube? You mentioned someone named Destiny. I don't know who that is. Who else? But these are popular.
Everyone realizes how utterly absurd this all is now, right? Right? Like even Destiny, if Destiny was watching this, would be the first to tell you, I fucking hate the left. I hate the communists. I hate the socialists. I hate the anarchists. Like, this is not even a burn on Destiny. That's just who he is. He's a proud capitalist neoliberal. He hates the left. He's not like, Destiny is a member of BreadTube? Have we gone this far? Destiny hates all these people. Despises them. Absolutely hates them. He hates Abigail. He hates Vosh. He hates Sean. He despises all. He hates Thought Slime. He hates Banana Banana. I can't believe this.
Sure. Well, this Destiny character, who I guess, you know, he's kind of the kingmaker of BreadTube, if not part of BreadTube instead.
Destiny dedicates his life to slagging on BreadTube. And whatever you want to define BreadTube as. Like, are you kidding me? He hates all these people. He spends more time angry at the left than he does on the right now. It's one of the biggest criticisms everyone has about him. He's like, yeah, you know what? I'm just going to pal around with Lauren Southern. I mean, we may disagree, or just xenophobia or something, but at the end of the day, you know, she does really hand it to those lefties. Really does hand it to the old lefties, that Lauren Southern.
Right?
Really?
He's a guy from Nebraska.
He's the CEO of BreadTube. I didn't know he was this far gone. This is ridiculous. Like, even what I'm saying right now would not be even considered in any way to be an insult to Destiny. This is absolutely absurd. Again, Caleb, did you even do any research on your own? This whole thing is about beefs. It's like, I lost a couple debates, and now I've realized the truth of it all. It all makes sense now.
Who worked at a carpet cleaning company, but figured out a way to start playing video games on the internet full time. And he became kind of famous for playing a video game on the internet, and that was his life. And then randomly, around the time Trump got elected, he suddenly started debating right wingers, and he was kind of a right winger himself. He was a libertarian or something. But then he started.
He's a libertarian or something. I can't believe this. This is your messiah. I bet there's someone right now DMing everyone in my chat in all caps, doing his all caps praxis. Yes, he's disparaging the glory of Caleb. Caps lock engage. Time for praxis. And he thinks Destiny is a libertarian leader of BreadTube. The libertarian leader of BreadTube, Destiny. And poor Jimmy. Jimmy's too much of a boomer to understand how wrong this is. How demonstrably wrong this is. Like, this is, oh wow, Caleb. Is no one in his community gonna correct him? Anybody? Like, Infrared, Haas, come on, my boy, you know more than anyone. Destiny is an out and proud liberal. He's an out and proud liberal. Come on. It's like, are we going to be good faith? Are we going to be intellectually honest? What is going on here?
Debating right wingers, and mainstream media outlets were like heralding him as, this famous internet troll is going.
Oh, we got some all caps warriors. I was right. They're already here. Strange how that happens. I put on Jimmy Dore or Caleb Maupin on screen, and all of a sudden the all caps warriors show up. Caps lock, you lib cuck. I will have sex with your mother. Blah.
Going to debate the right wing and debate Trump supporters, and he was getting a lot of play that way. And it seemed like that was his new gig, was debating folks. There's this character. I almost don't want to say his name, but I think we know him as Vosh. And this character, I mean, his father's a well-connected Hollywood person. He's from Beverly Hills, and he right now is just a cheerleader for the Azov Battalion and the far.
Bread into toast. You were right. I even got a random DM from an all caps warrior I've never talked to before. I know. It's weird how that happens. Hey, you shake a little Caleb Maupin and Jimmy Dore like a snow globe, and out all these all caps warriors show up doing their praxis.
Right extremist forces in Ukraine. He's gone all the way into he wants this war to keep going. He wants Russians to die. He wants a big war between the United States and Russia, and he's made that clear. And again, if you watch his streams, what's kind of amusing is that he's not very familiar with left-wing politics at all. I mean, he is handed lists of quotations, from Lenin, from Marx, and he'll read them off as if that means you should vote for Joe Biden. And it's really kind of pathetic to watch. But one thing that I find to be interesting about all of this, you talk about the importance of.
That's the first thing I think in this entire video that I'll give Caleb a point for. Like, I think the idea of using Lenin's quotes or Marx quotes to endorse people voting for Joe Biden, as Vosh did, is silly. Like, that's the first straw I'll give Caleb Maupin. I mean, maybe the idea being is that it was a kind of a dig on the people who are being very strong Bernie or busters who don't believe in ideas like harm reduction or whatever that is. But I think you just as easily could have been like, well, Joe Biden sucks. He's a neoliberal. He's going to spend so much money on the military industrial complex. He's going to further U.S. imperialism. But I guess he's better than Trump in X ways, right? I guess that would have been the closest thing.
People coming together. Mumia Abu-Jamal, that was an important cause in the 90s. This was a black liberation fighter who was facing the death penalty. And the reason that Mumia Abu-Jamal is still alive, he didn't get the death penalty, he's still in prison, but the reason that the state of Pennsylvania couldn't execute this former Black Panther was because a lot of people of different political views came together to stand against his execution. You had the far left, communists, anarchists, others. You also had Black nationalists, people with the Nation of Islam, Minister.
How is he going to tie these together? I'm like, oh, Caleb, where are you going with this?
Mr. Farrakhan. You also had Catholic priests and nuns. The Pope stood against the execution of Mumia. You had Mennonites and Amish people. And in 1995, it was hundreds of thousands of people piled into Philadelphia with one demand: don't execute Mumia Abu-Jamal. And that's why Mumia, this Black revolutionary journalist, wasn't executed, because people came together, overcame their differences. But nowadays, it seems like instead of doing that, we're supposed to engage in this kind of politics where the left talks to their crowd and riles them up and tries to purify them of any deviant thoughts within their own ranks. The right talks to their own crowd.
What? That's where you were going with this whole thing? I was just like, this is such a random thing to bring up. How's he going to use this? And I was like, oh, wow. And by the way, that is what Caleb Maupin does. His little, like, I don't know what you would call them, Sunday nights with Caleb or fun times with Caleb podcasts or streams. Like, a lot of it is a lot of conservative ideology when it comes to social issues. It's going to be like, if it wasn't for this, people would be running naked in the streets, and that's why we have to have these forums. And we don't enjoy slime. We fear slime. We absolutely do. We want to have better cities and have sewer systems, and that's why an individual like this thought slime is trying to push dangerous ideology. He's a Malthusianite. He's trying to spread Malthusianism. That's right. He's a eugenicist. I have discovered and decoded all this.
Does this, and everyone gets poorer, and the country polarizes politically, and austerity and war march ahead. And this is a setup for disaster. This isn't how serious political organizing works.
I couldn't agree with you more, and that is the biggest threat to them, is the populist left, populist right, realizing we have a common enemy, realizing that we can organize together against the establishment, against the oligarchy, to stop war.
Okay, there's a really big difference between things like, say, a rainbow coalition, or also working with people who happen to have conservative beliefs, or working with Republicans in any respect, or trying to change people's, concepts, win in the hearts and minds. That's very, very different than associating with known groups that have ties to white nationalist militias, neo-Nazi groups. Those are very, very different things. I'm not trying to shit on the idea of having broad appeal or reaching out to a lot of people and not being condescending libs who always just look down upon people who don't have the same social values as you because they haven't learned those social values yet, or they might not even understand the very concepts you're talking about. And so it's very, very condescending to simply be like, oh, you're all racists, oh, you're all this, you're all that, blah, blah, blah. And I completely understand the idea that if you do ultimately want to win, you're going to have to win in the hearts and minds of lots of people. But again, that is different than directly associating with far-right militias. So you can't say that, Caleb Maupin trying to associate with Alexander Dugin and the founder of National Bolshevism, or Jimmy Dore trying to associate with the Boogaloo Boys, who are, again, a far-right militia. That isn't in any way comparable to people trying to form and organize a rainbow coalition similar to what the Black Panthers pulled off. That's how he's trying to sell it right now. This is the sales pitch. But they're just so far off the marker.
Stop police brutality, to stop racism. We could do. There's a lot of things to help. Also, to help our economy and get a living wage for people.
He interviewed him, not associated. They just brought this up again, John Swift. I'm going to have to time you out again. You're not learning anything. Your timeouts aren't helping you. But they will eventually, I'm sure. I believe in you. I have faith that with given enough time, you'll understand these things. He's the one proposing this. He just said the sentence out loud. The Boogaloo Boys are the antidote to the Proud Boys. We need to associate with groups like that. He is not in the Boogaloo Boys, if that's what you're implying. I'm not saying Jimmy Dore is in the Boogaloo Boys. He's platforming him, and he's also platforming their ideas, and he's also saying that we need to form coalitions with these organizations.
That's the last thing they want. They're now happy that gas prices are so high, so people will be forced to go back to poor-paying jobs. That's the world we're living in. And you're telling me that those people, those pretend. So it seems to me that the breadtube, or the people who say they're progressives or lefties on YouTube.
So, by the way, something else that completely debunks the entire, the breadtube thing are not true leftists. It's a subreddit. Again, I can't reiterate this enough. Breadtube is not a conspiracy theory. There's not an organization. There's not the Council of Bread. We do not have the meeting of the yeast once every 4 months or something like that. Then none of that exists. It's a subreddit. It's a subreddit that features a variety of content creators who have a variety of different political ideologies and aims. There are some people on there who want to support and fight for unionization. There are some people who want to destroy and dismantle capitalism. Reform versus revolution. Both of them will find videos that are posted in Breadtube and get high upvotes. Video content creators can be as diverse as someone, say, like Big Joel, who some people might think is just kind of like a sock dem at most, to someone like Hakeem, who is an out and avowed proud Marxist-Leninist who knows infinitely more about Marxist-Leninism than someone like Caleb Maupin, and also does a lot about discussing pertinent issues related to that. But both will find themselves posted in this subreddit, and both will be upvoted by people who like their content. This is the Breadtube. The Breadtube is in the room with us right now.
But they're actually just shills for the Democratic Party. That's what I've noticed when I've looked a little into it. It's every time they're like, well, you have to vote for Joe Biden. You have to vote for Hillary Clinton. You have to vote for the squad. You have to vote for Democrats. And Democrats are better than Republicans. And they come up with crazy reasons why the Democrats are better than the Republicans. Meanwhile, more and more people fall into poverty. More and more people go bankrupt. More and more people can't get health care. And we have more and more billions and trillions of dollars for...
So I think all of you should invest a bunch of money into, and time and effort into, the People's Party. Yeah, the People's Party, the one that Jimmy Dore run. Oh wait, but they're embroiled in a whole bunch of scams right now, aren't they? It was an absolute disaster. That's kind of fucked up. So what was your other alternative, Jimmy Dore? Did you have anything else to propose? Because I don't see Jimmy Dore, the last time I saw Jimmy Dore talking about unions, he was shitting on them. He was shitting on the Canadian Teamsters Union because they weren't supporting the fucking far-right organized and funded trucker convoy rally in Canada. And he was like, oh, the unions, look at these unions. They won't support actual workers, actual truckers that are doing more to destroy and dismantle capital in my lifetime than I've ever seen. I was like, what for the cause of freedom? Freedom was their demands. They weren't asking for an end to capitalism. In fact, most of them adore capitalism. There was tons of signs. One truck had a giant communist symbol with a fucking X painted on it. Like, they hate communists, they hate lefties, they hate socialists. They were there because they wanted freedom. Freedom and all the wonderful things that freedom could entail. And in the pursuit of that freedom, because again, if you're going to protest, or if you're going to do direct action, or if you're even going to shut down elements of the capitalist system itself, you should be doing that for the aims of a goal to get more power for workers. That should be the point of all that. Instead, they harmed workers. There were thousands of auto manufacturers who couldn't work, couldn't get paid because they were shutting down their production. So that's not them doing a praxis. That's a bunch of people who are just saying into the sky, we demand freedom. And that's the last thing that Jimmy Dore was like, oh, okay, well, this is good, right?
Imperialism and war. It's why they keep telling you to keep voting for them. I mean, and everybody does that, from Kyle Kalinske to Crystal Ball to, right? I mean, of course, the Young Turks. Would you consider those people breadtube? Because it seems like they're doing the same thing, telling everybody to keep voting Democrat. And that's so you can go off and have your Marxist theories, and you can criticize Democrats, but you have to, at the end of the day, vote for them. And you can't ever entertain a third party. That's what I see that comes out of breadtube. Would you consider that?
Sure. Well, it's the same script. They're reading from the same script. There's no question about it. I think BreadTube is more specifically aimed at teenagers, people in their early 20s.
Okay.
And it's got more of a grunge vibe. You know, it's people sitting in their basements screaming. It's documentaries and
Okay, so clown shoes, obviously. Crystal Ball, Kyle Kalinske are now part of BreadTube. Is BreadTube just whatever we want it to be? It just sounds more like Jimmy Dore's ethos comes down to, I have vendettas against a whole bunch of people, so can I throw them in? Can I just give you names and they can be part of the scary BreadTube that you speak of that are actually CIA-funded psyops? Okay, cool. So could Jank, let's put Jank in there. Anna Kasparian, she's like the queen of BreadTube, right? Yeah, yes. Whatever you want, Jimmy. Yeah, every one of them. It's well documented. We have the Max Blumenthal gray zone. You know, yeast. You've heard this. By the way, the idea of the People's Party, which is just such an utter and debunked joke of this, and that people only want you to vote for Democrats, I've been saying time and time again, and I think this is echoed by a handful of other lefties too. Someone like Shama Sawant, okay, District 3 in Central Seattle, independent, not part of the Democratic Party, has done so much work to further leftist causes, actual tangible changes to people's material conditions. I'm talking about a $15 minimum wage. I'm talking about rent freezes, stuff like that. She is an absolute and utter socialist warrior when it comes to things that are done on a political scale. So it doesn't have to just be the only thing we must do is vote for the Democrats. That is how we will usher in the revolution, because I was told by the Council of Bread. The Council of Bread has told me that. No. First off, politics should not be your be-all, end-all. Politics should be a part of the puzzle, obviously. Do not allow politics to simply be the realm of liberals and conservatives, because they will use it, and they will use it to do some really fucked up shit. So there should be lefties entering all levels of government, at the lowest and smallest areas, running for small positions, all the way up to, yes, running for the president of the United States, if possible. But there should also be there has to be a diversity of tactics, right? You have to be doing organizing, joining unions, join the IWW, join the DSA if you can. Start a union if there isn't one in your job. Form a worker cooperative in which everyone collectively owns the means of production in that sense. You can do direct action, protests on the street, engage in mutual aid as well, making people less resilient on the systems that are failing them. All of these are valid forms of what they call praxis, and it should be a diversity of tactics. And you should also be doing the parts of it that you feel most comfortable doing, because ultimately, maybe it's not a good thing for you to become a politician. Maybe the very idea of being one is something that you are deathly afraid of. You're like, I have anxiety, I don't want to be on camera, I don't have to debate people in a council hall or anything. That's fine. You can volunteer in other ways or do completely separate things, but everyone should be working towards the same goal. That's very different than this BreadTube is paid by the CIA. Part of that payment's by the CIA is that every single person in BreadTube just wants you to vote Democratic.
Things that are more alternative looking. It's got
less reliant on the systems that failed. Did I not say reliant? Oh, I said resilient? Oh, sorry. My apologies. Yes, less Nordic Rest is right. Less reliant.
That more punk rock alternative aesthetic, but it's the same script that Young Turks
BreadTube's
is using, the same script that Kyle Kalinske is using.
It's a vibe.
Same narrative. What I find interesting is, again, they've gone after you because, oh my gosh, you interviewed a Boogaloo boy, right? But none of this cancel culture ever applies to Joe Biden. You know, you ain't black, author of the crime bill. I mean, but none of, I mean, you just have to vote.
What was Caleb doing during Bernie Sanders' run? When all that stuff was coming out, every single person I know, even people who I think are just sock dems or like, you know, liberal adjacent, they were coming out talking about that shit all the time. All the time. Like every single person I know who's considered lefty was just like, holy fuck, Joe Biden is the worst, blah, blah, blah. He's a war criminal. He's fucking horrifying. He had such a large part to play in orchestrating the Iraq war, especially for a Democrat. He's fucking disgusting. He smells people's hair. Like that was all the left was putting out on a regular basis.
For him because
he built the cages those kids are in. He's the one who
no shit. Again, I've done entire videos on that. What are you talking about?
Who made it so you can't get rid of your medical.
Do you think this is like a uniquely Jimmy Dore, Caleb Maupin thing? We are the only ones who criticize Joe Biden and his many atrocities.
Debt or your student debt and bankrupt you. He made it. He's been the screwer of the American people. He's been why are most of our prisons filled up with black and brown people? Because of Joe Biden. So they'll never cancel him, but they'll try to cancel me when I speak about Joe Biden in an honest way and tell people to stop.
What the fuck do you think canceling is? People calling you out for your shit. It's like fucking call out culture versus cancel culture. Yeah, they didn't cancel the president of the United States. Well, they did because it was Trump. They canceled him, but not Joe Biden.
Stop voting for him.
Sure. And the crazy thing is, you know, there's the narrative that they have is so shallow. It's basically there's this group of bad people called fascists, and they're under every rock and they're hiding behind every tree.
Oh, sorry. Oh, that one got me. Yeah, fascists are pretty bad. They're not great.
Yes. Every Trump supporter is a Nazi. Yes. Every conservative is a Nazi.
No.
And they're not even understanding that fascism, there is a scientific Marxist understanding of it. Read R. Palm Dutt, read Georgy Dimitrov, right? There is an understanding of where fascism comes from, and it flows from the breakdown of capitalism. It's a system, you know, when you have the capitalist system with profits in command, you inevitably have economic breakdowns, and, you know, great leaps in technology lead to greater poverty. And as there's greater poverty in society, one faction of the ruling class wants to lock down society, drive wages down, and reduce living standards, and degrow, which is another big Breadtube theme, degrowth. They want to degrow in order to try and stabilize the capitalist economy. There's a scientific Marxist understanding of what fascism actually is, but in their minds, fascism is a question of good people versus bad people. And if we just drive these bad people out, then everything will be fine. Well, no, it's not a question of good people versus bad people. It's a problem rooted in the system, the fundamental flaws of the capitalist system.
So they think that people they'll say Donald Trump and Ted Cruz are fascists, but
Okay, so there's a handful of things going on here. Under capitalism, there's going to be inherent contradictions. Those inherent contradictions over time are going to create things like inequality, and they're going to separate people by class. There's also going to be this thing where about every 40 to 70 years, the capitalist system itself, the economy, especially an economy tied to things like stocks and the stock market, is going to crash. Sometimes it's going to crash horrifyingly. Sometimes it's going to dip. Sometimes there's going to be a recession. That is going to happen as a pattern roughly every 4 to 7 years. At least that's what we've been seeing for the last little while. When it happened in the worst way possible, of course, which they're calling when fascism first rose to prominence under both Mussolini and Hitler, it did happen under a complete and the biggest economic crash in human history up to that point. So that is where there's a fertile ground for something like fascism to take place. It doesn't only take place with that. It's not the be-all end-all. There are other steps that are going to happen. You usually have a strong man, a figurehead who's going to start othering a certain group. It can be the Jews, for example, and they're going to do that to blame all the problems of capitalism, the capitalism system crashing on that other. They are going to get very heavily invested into militarization. That is going to be another thing. They are going to call out the media. They are going to say that the media is lying, the Lugenpress. They're probably going to call out the arts as well. They're no fan of, creativity and stuff like that. And they're most likely, because you have two possible directions when capitalism is failing and crashing to go in. You can either go towards socialism or barbarism. You can go towards communism and socialism, or you can go towards fascism, which again is a far right ideology. So that's basically it. And yes, fascists are bad. That part is as well. The idea now where they're like, I just noticed this thumbnail. Caleb, you give me so many great faces. Oh, my little tomato. But anyways, going back to what they're about to talk about here, the idea being, I don't think anyone on the left straight up said, I think some liberals were saying that Donald Trump is a fascist. What a lot of people on the left were saying was that he is a neo-fascist or a proto-fascist. I don't think, he's competent enough or had the collective trust of those around him and his inner circle to pull off things like full-blown fascism. What you were seeing were attempts at it. Proto-fascism, neo-fascism was probably the closest you could refer to as someone like Donald Trump.
Guys like Joe Biden, Kamala Harris are good people. As if they don't serve the exact same people and have almost the exact same agenda, except with tweaks on the margins. I mean,
sure. Well,
they're all
you have to understand.
Go ahead.
Trump says naughty words. He said naughty words, and it's all about words with these people. It's all about words. It's all about aesthetics. It's all about imagery. Nothing about concrete, actual analysis. Joe Biden can set up the crime bill. Joe Biden can be driving the wages of workers down. None of that matters. It's all just this question of aesthetics, and they're triggered by what they think of as authoritarianism, right? If anything reeks of, a strong government getting things done, it scares them, whether it's coming from the right or the left. And again,
that's the sum total summary of Donald Trump and his administration was that he said naughty words, and he's just agreeing with that. He's just smiling and he's like, yeah, that's pretty much all he did, right? He said fuck and he said pussy. And he gets canceled for that. I mean, people are being as brazen as saying he's a racist.
Again, go back to the Congress for Cultural Freedom and Susan Sontag and her redefinition of fascism, where fascism becomes groups of people working together for a common aim. When they're trying to equate the Soviet Union with Nazi Germany, there's a long precedent for these kind of distortions of left-wing politics, and Breadtube is a continuation of that, I maintain.
Yeah.
Well, and again, the reason why I'm not aware of who Breadtube is because I'm not in the demo that they're going after, right? Because they're going after younger people,
Sure.
And are they mostly on Twitch or YouTube or both?
Twitch, YouTube, they're all across social media.
It's happening right now in real time, everybody. Do you see this? Do you feel a part of Breadtube? Are you all my collective yeast? All of you? That's right, comrades. We're working in real time. We're live here in 4K.
Platforms. They're very widely promoted.
What about that Hassan? So when I see
I knew it. It's all his enemies list. Tell me about Hassan. It's time.
So that Hassan Piker, Cenk Uyghur's nephew.
Yep.
Sure.
Sure. Oh,
super talent.
Whatever you want. Whatever you want, Jimmy.
He had an article, a positive article written about him in like the Business Insider or some magazine like that. I don't know which one it was. But the reason I know this is because every time I logged into Twitter for a week straight, it was promoting that article. How does that happen?
Okay, well, I mean, since the game has been given away, I have to show you all. I did accidentally record some footage from the Council of Breadtube, so I mean, I'll show you all what actually takes place. I'm sorry. The jig is up.
Hail, brothers! Coronan Sileria Ozumahok. Now then, gentlemen, the mayoral campaign is upon us. And if we hope to defeat this
Jimmy Dore,
we need a candidate with name recognition and media savvy. A true leader who will do exactly as she's told.
Monty, I'm way ahead of you. If you'll just open that door, you'll see the
Breadtube assassin.
I'm sorry. It's been revealed. The truth has been revealed, everybody. We can no longer hide in the shadows. We have to come forward into the real world. They know everything.
Exactly. And if you look at how Breadtube started on Reddit, it was largely, there was a lot of money being handed out in order to encourage people to debunk the ideas of the right wing, right? The right wing was gaining on the internet. There were a lot of right wing YouTube channels, etc. And a lot of money started showing up in people's Patreons, and a lot of algorithmic support was being provided for people to debunk the right wing. And that's good. I mean, there's a lot of crazy stuff on the right wing, conspiracy theories and notions that we should privatize everything and roll back all government regulation. So it's not inherently bad. But at the end of the day, they're also targeting people on the left, like you, like me, who dare actually challenge the system. And they're trying to cultivate the left.
They all have the biggest egos, eh? Like, they always add that. Like, we're the only true leftists. We're the ones that actually challenge the system. We're the ones that actually are going to put, like, capital in a position where they could get taken down. And they know that. So they sent Breadtube after us.
To just be foot soldiers for some of the most powerful capitalists out there.
For the Democratic Party.
Yeah, Jeff Bezos, the Walton family,
Bill Gates.
at Walmart. Yeah, I mean, that's who they ultimately want leftism to serve. And no, I mean, the goal is to—
You know what's wild is that, like, in other circles in YouTube where there is just petty drama, because that's all this is. This is all petty drama. When there is petty drama, people make things about each other. They make diss videos, they'll make rap songs, all that kind of stuff. But they don't craft worlds. Like, I gotta give Caleb credit for that, right? Like, he's a world builder in a lot of ways. He's created this entire narrative, and it sounds like wondrously grandiose. It makes everyone seem way more important than they actually are. Like, Jimmy Dore, he's got reach. He's got like over 1 million subs, I think, right? And how did that happen with all the suppression that happens to Jimmy Dore and his ideas? Because he's the only one who speaks truth to power. But I mean, Caleb is a small, or was a small fish. I think Jimmy Dore probably just boosted Caleb into the stratosphere. You know, he's in Tomato Town now.
get a society with—
Delusional or pure grift? I don't think Caleb is 100% grift. I think Caleb genuinely believes he's the leader. I think he genuinely believes he is white MLK Jr. I think that is true. And I think he thinks he is doing revolutionary action as a member of the Vanguard by hosting these basically conventions to sell his books and getting people to sell his literature as well. Because I think he's that ego driven. I think both of them are. I think they're both so far up their own assholes that they've come to a point now where both of them genuinely believe what they're actually espousing, even if it's utterly ludicrous. And anyone who is like, you know, friends or family could sit them down and be like, you get what's actually going on here, right? But no, I think they've gotten to a point now. Like, I think Jimmy thinks that, you know, he is so dangerous because he's the only one who speaks truth to power that you know, people almost want to silence him, and that, you know, his actions in terms of changing the world start and stop when his YouTube show is over, or the interview that he gives afterwards to someone else is over.
The banks and the factories and the industries and the centers of economic power are organized to serve public good and not the profits of a few, a rationally organized economy. That's the goal. The goal is to overturn this system of imperialism and build a society where the needs of people come first. And you're not going to solve that with worker cooperative schemes, and you're not going to solve that by voting for Joe Biden. Ultimately, it's a question of getting working people to realize their own economic interests. And they have a word for that, right? If you want to raise the minimum wage, or if you want Medicare for all, you're a class reductionist. That's their term.
What?
You know, immediately they scream class reductionist.
What does that mean?
Never raise I don't know. I don't know what it means. But,
What? You don't know? It's that you reduce everything to class. It comes from a lot of people who usually espouse to be Marxists, who usually espouse to subscribe to Marxist theory and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, they don't add any intersectionality to their analysis of the world. So they'll say things like, if we could just abolish class, everyone will be liberated. But like that doesn't explain a lot of other things that happen in life. How you can be oppressed for class. You can also be oppressed for being black in America. You can be oppressed for being trans in America. You can be oppressed for being bisexual in America. There's a lot of intersectional things that are going on there. So if you are someone who simply believes in class and class alone, usually you're one of two things. You're a white, quote, leftist who's probably not going to be impacted by a lot of the other aspects of intersectionality, but you also don't read a lot of theory that goes beyond, say, someone like Marx and Engels. Like, I'm guessing you probably haven't read Fanon as an example of that.
If you want to fight for economic justice, you're a bad person. You're a class reductionist. And they have all kinds of lists of accusatory names they throw at people. And one of them is if you believe in economic justice, if you raise economic issues, you don't focus on the culture war, you're a class reductionist.
That is that's well, what I enjoy telling people.
Have you noticed that black men in America, rich, famous black men in America, can still be stopped by the cops unjustly? It doesn't matter how rich and famous they are. Like, if they've won in the game of capitalism, if they're very high earners, if they do not have to worry about financial troubles, there's still problems there because racism still exists independent of that. It can certainly play a very large role, and honestly, like the very creation of races and the subjugation of different races in America has a lot to do with the North Atlantic slave trade and the very concept of that. And so capitalism plays a role that has to be included in the conversation, but it can't be the only one.
Is that when you hear people who say they're on the left in the United States, and they say things like, "Oh, we have to organize along class lines." Right? We have to organize. You'll even hear the knuckleheads at TYT say this thing. We have.
Oh, wow. That one seems, sorry, we have Keffels with another knockout. Abigail Shrier, the TERF, the only people who know for a fact whether these interventions are reversible are detransitioners. If you're a parent or someone considering these interventions, do not listen to the White House misleading propaganda. Talk to detransitioners, the very few amount of them that are out there. But we are going to platform them above all the other voices in the trans community. And then I've always wanted to racial Abigail Shrier on trans. But bam! Well done, Keffels. Well done. Another jewel to add to the gauntlet of transphobia. That's what Keffels is collecting. The gauntlet of transphobia.
To organize along class lines. They have no idea what that means. And if they do, they're just blatantly lying, because they do not mean what organizing along class lines means. Is that you organized with people in the same class, meaning whatever political stripe they come from, meaning if they're a libertarian or a socialist or a Republican or a Boogaloo boy or a socialist or a communist, all those people have.
John Swift, are you still here? Oh, you are still here. There's your Boogaloo boys again. Just gonna keep on saying it.
To come together. That's called. So it's just like when you organize in a union. I've been in unions my whole life. The way you don't organize a union is you don't go to the shop floor and go, who here's a Boogaloo boy? You're out. Who here's a Proud Boy? You're out. Who's here as a libertarian gun nut? You're out. Who here's a Trump voter? You're out. Okay, who's left? Now we're going to organize against the man with you people. That's not how organizing works. It's only powerful when you get people who totally disagree with each other to agree on something. And that's when change really happens. Like when we had the Medicare for All march this summer, people were complaining that there's some right-wingers on stage. That's because Medicare for All means Medicare for all.
Yeah, because he gets on with that guy Marius. Oh, John, I have to time you out again. But don't worry, we'll get there. You'll learn sometime. So he didn't say we have to align with this one specific individual. He said we have to align with the Boogaloo Boys, the organization itself. So yeah.
And that's when you can actually pressure government, when you have people from all different stripes of politics combined and converging on one idea. That's how you make something happen, which is why the Black Panthers teamed up with the KKK in Las Vegas to get their welfare checks back. That's why they killed Fred Hampton. Why did they kill Fred Hampton? Because he was organizing black people? No, because Fred Hampton was organizing Southern racist whites with black people in Chicago, and they were realizing they had more in common than they had separate and different, and that's when they killed Fred Hampton. So that's the thing that they can have, and that's what people who say we have to organize along class lines, when you hear somebody at the Young Turks say we have to organize, they don't mean it for a second. They hate people who are in the different political party than they are and in the same class. They hate those people, and in fact, their business model is built on clickbait, hating those people. So would you like to comment on that?
Well, sure. And, the biggest cure in U.S. history for racism has always been the picket.
I was waiting to see where he was going to go with that and what was going to. So the statement, Fred Hampton directly associated and partnered with the KKK, I thought there was going to be something like a course correction there. I think what he's trying to refer to is the Young Patriots, which were a group of either poor or Confederate branding, white, some of them white nationalists, white people, but certainly slightly different at the most.
When black workers and white
The Young Patriot Organization was an American leftist organization of mostly white Southerners from uptown Chicago, originated in 1968, active until 1973. The organization was designed to support young white migrants from the Appalachian region who experienced extreme poverty and discrimination. The organization promoted Southern culture and used the Confederate battle flag as a symbol, along with the Illinois Black Panther Party and the Young Lords. The Young Patriot Organization formed the Rainbow Coalition, a group of allied but racially separate organizations, each focused on helping the issues of poverty and discrimination amongst their local community while working together towards internationalist and anti-capitalist goals.
Workers see they have a common economic interest. This breaks down the divisions. It was the CIO and in their effort to spread unions, it was that broke down the racial divisions. When the Communist Party in the 1930s was going into the auto plants and the steel mills, often they would break down historical divisions among workers and build multiracial unions. You hear about in the South when the sharecroppers were organizing, how William Z. Foster and Gus Hall would go to a town and give a speech, and how the white workers would rip up their Ku Klux Klan cards and say, my enemy isn't the black people, my enemy is the plantation owners and the capitalists and the big bankers.
So I mean, I guess we're getting kind of close to what the world vision is. They really want to associate with the KKK. If we can just partner with the KKK, okay, we have a lot of people and we have an opportunity to basically convert them. I'm sure if we explain to them in very clear terms what exactly our goals and aspirations are and how we're communists to the KKK, then we can get them to take off their hoods, and then they'll all realize in a wonderful moment, of exuberance that, hey, I don't actually hate black people. I was wrong all along. Thank you, Jimmy and Caleb, for teaching me the path, the one true path.
That is how you overcome racism, is getting people to see they have something in common, bringing people together. It's through those kinds of struggles that you can break down inequality and that people can see that they have more in common. And by creating artificial divisions ahead of time and discouraging economic struggle, you're setting the stage for the opposite. You're setting the stage for basically
So again, I just want to be clear on this. There is a very, very big difference between associating or trying to win in the hearts and minds of workers, like, the general working class, many of whom in America are right-wing. Yes, there's a problem with the way, especially liberals, will condescend to right-wingers, tell them that they're all racists, tell them that they're all Nazis, tell them that they're all fascists, stuff like that. I don't think it is a prevalent problem on the left. I think that is a, straw person that Caleb Maupin has invented. But there's a huge difference between doing that or even approaching anything from that, trying to become, have class solidarity, for example, and associating with far-right militias. It could not be more night and day.
Sawing the population. There's an old device they called a whipsaw, right? And it's like a two-man saw. And when one guy's pushing, the other guy's pulling. And when one guy's pulling, the other guy's pushing. That's kind of what they're doing right now.
And by the way, I mean, Caleb Maupin, very long documented history of anti-Semitism. Like none of this surprises me, to say the least, that this kind of idea would come from him.
Right now in the United States, they want one section of the population to think that they can only gain at the expense of another section of the population. And then they go to the other section and say, oh, you can only gain at the expense of the other one. And we've got working people all throughout the United States pushing and pulling on each other in a culture war. And we're all getting poorer, and their agenda of creating a low-wage police state marches ahead. And we got to have class solidarity. We got to go against it. Fred Hampton is a great example of that kind of work.
Fred Hampton, apparently, who directly partnered with the KKK. I do want to say, though, that if they're going to invoke Fred Hampton, something that Fred Hampton did that I think is very valuable, and I think more people should do, especially on a local level, is working on food programs. I know it doesn't sound like much. I mean, if you listen to Robert Evans and he discussing organizations he would recommend you join, Food Not Bombs is one he usually says that there's a local chapter in your area that is a very good one to do. Like, they focus primarily on feeding people who are food insecure. And it's through that action that people may be open to, so what are you all about? Rather than being like, hello, I am Caleb. I am a Marxist-Leninist. I have written Marxist literature, which you can purchase if you would like, and I'm here to tell you about communism. And that is how you will become a communist, Boogaloo boys. Whereas actual feeding programs, especially ones that are widespread and can impact impoverished children, it does go a long way to getting people, hey, what's this all about? What are you doing? What's this? You seem like genuinely nice souls. And then you can be like, yeah, well, I mean, if you're interested, we are trying to also promote things like anti-capitalism, because at the end of the day, it seems like the capitalist system itself is resulting in what you see before you, right? Like poverty, in a lot of ways, can be a policy choice. I mean, we will spend so much more money on the military than we will on housing the homeless, for example, things like that.
Low-wage police state. That is exactly what they're pushing for. Well, anyway, great work on
Low
this.
wage police
BreadTube
state.
serves imperialism, examining the new brand of internet pseudo-socialism.
Wait, did he say soy? Please, please.
Imperialism, examining the new brand of internet pseudo-socialism.
Soil socialism. Yes. Soy. It's true. They've uncovered the final part of it. It's always been about the soy. Soy. How are my socialists doing?
By Caleb Maupin. It's available at Amazon and all the places where you can buy books. Do you have a website?
Sure. I'm at calebmaupin.com, but you can also check out, I work with a think tank called the Center for Political Innovation.
Ah, yes, the Center for
CPIUSA.org.
Nice. Oh, you're a think tank, are you? Oh, I didn't know that. A think tank dedicated to studying how best to sell Caleb Maupin's literature. That seems to be like, I love when the CPI posts pictures of like praxis. Do we have the Center for Political Innovation? Let's pull this up here. Oh, he's putting. Oh, wow. These clips are already up there. Of course. Embrace multipolarity. God bless Jimmy Dore and Caleb Maupin. Oh, here's some video footage
with
finally.
the shift to the multipolar world right now. They all said that the United States and its position is wavering, and it is finally coming to a point where they are not the dominant hegemony. There is something more out there now.
It's so bassy. I love how Caleb Maupin sits in the corner of the entire thing, just being like, yes, America. Abe Lincoln. Yes, nice. All right. Pro-Russia rally in Union Square. And whoa, the books are there. It seems like they're doing a praxis. Russia is not our enemy. Wall Street, NATO. Oh yeah, and then there's Caleb Maupin yelling in the side. Good job. Got Russia's flag over there. Oh yes, the Z. And there's the book sales at the same time. The praxis of selling those books.
We're trying to bring people together, try to formulate an economic program to rescue the United States from the crisis we're facing. CPIUSA.org. It's the Center for Political Innovation.
Jimmy, you're in deep now. You're in real deep. You've kind of gone all the way to the deep end. But, best of luck to you. That's all I'll say. Oh, actually, you know what? We should probably do a little drawing. Hold on. It's time to write down some theory, everybody. This was our last lesson, but we'll do a better one right now. Hold on. Okay. Breadtube serves imperialism. All right, let's get down all of Caleb's points. Just gonna need some inspirational tunes here. 1. Breadtube is led by Stephen Bonnell II, known as the streamer Destiny. He may or may not control them. 2. Anyone who Jimmy Dore hates is a part of Breadtube. This includes Son Piker and Cenk Uygur. Oh wait, it's Uygur. Yeah, it's pronounced Uygur. It's spelled like that. Yeah. 3. They are funded by the CIA and the royal family, aka the Queen. The only antidote to Breadtube is aligning with, oops, my spelling is all over the place here. Let's say associating with the KKK and the Boogaloo boys. And also buying Caleb Maupin's literature. I think we're pretty close. That sounds all about correct, right? That's pretty much what I learned from that whole thing. Add some flair. Got, yeah, why not? put this here. And then we can put figure 1, Sean, a breadtube assassin. Here. Figure 2. No. I think we've got it. I think we've uncovered it, right? This is pretty much what I learned. What did you learn? Because this is what I learned. Yeah. Sean would be proud. I hope so. I hope Sean would be proud. I did this for you, Sean. At the end of the day, anyone who's on the CIA payroll and gets a couple of those CIA checks knows, you know. So there's this. Yes. Do you enjoy the Serfs but prefer not to have to use your eyeballs? Many are saying this. Well, we've got the solution for you. It's the Serf Times in podcast form, available on most major podcasting networks now. If you enjoy it, please consider leaving a good review and feedback because it really helps the show out, apparently, and it's free, just like the podcast.
To our gods, Xander Corvus and Peyton L. Just, we are prepared to conduct many a human sacrifices in your honor. To our monarch, Tom Spiker, we are but your humble yet incompetent jesters, trying in vain to bring some levity into your life. To our Lord Trevor R., we give you thanks for this meager plot of land for us to toil away our pathetic existence. To our brave knights, Carl Wauer, Tony, DM Rivera, Resident Scarecrow, Sir Nickus, Mayred, Cheryl Alvarez, Ruben Kelly, Brandon, Words Greenwood, Nate, Hagbird Celine, Matthew Scarborough, Stellar Vision, Ariane McCarthy, Daniel Sutton, Coulter Smith, Jenna Tal, Quiet 185, Anna Loves Riley, Omni, Riley and Anna, Poodlehawk, The Tim Caucus, Multimondi, Trevor Janis, Lemmy 101, Anthropophojak, Saren 42, Catherine, Ramon Acosta, Nkosin, Agent NDN, Violent Orchard, Political Puppy, Andreas Chiringuito, Zach Christensen, Todd Buckingham, and Todd Lajeunesse. We salute our mighty heroes off to conquest some bread in some far-off land.